Welcome to Let's Talk About It with Amy Schreiber, where we talk about life's journey, the real estate market, and everything in between. I am Amy Schreiber, your host. I am a local realtor in the state of Florida, servicing the Tampa Bay area. I am joined by my co-host, Katie Easling. So, Katie, where do we leave off?
Last week we were talking about leadership and it was really fascinating. You were talking about your roles in JP Morgan and how you really enjoyed working with Dana specifically. So tell us more about what happened with that.
Absolutely. So, yeah, I had probably been with the firm for about 4.5 years, got promoted, we decommissioned, the model and of my previous role. So she had left and was doing great things, supporting one of our managing directors in operations. So, totally different world, technology to operations. And she was looking for someone to really support her from a reporting perspective, building presentations, decks, all that good stuff, right? And she had reached out, and it took a few months as I was continuing to focus on, just doing what I did from a project management perspective in my current role. And so finally, she was able to post the position, obviously interviewed others, right? You've got to have that fairness. But at the end of the day, she knew what I could bring to the table. And I got the position. It was a business analyst reporting role. It was a reporting manager role or something like that. And it was funny because it was something totally different than what I had experienced before. But yet I was able to leverage my skills, right? Based on everything I'd done in my past. So in this role, as I said, she was the managing director's right hand. I mean, every presentation that he needed to use in a senior meeting, in a town hall, in staff. I mean, she was right there with him. Think of it this way. He's the president of the United States. She is that chief of staff, right? So business managers are really considered chief of staff. I mean, they are with you all the time. They're writing out your speeches, all that good stuff. So that's her. That was her role with the managing director. And in my role, I needed to really focus on the daily stuff because she was so consumed with managing and supporting him, right? And then we had to obviously get things done. And so I came in and there were a few analysts. So again, this role was presentation based. It was all kind of senior leadership reporting, right, to the top of the house, even sometimes to the CEO. So again, this is a huge organization, 200,000 plus employees globally.
Yeah.
And so this was also a role where I would face, again, imposter syndrome. Why am I here? Because it was also all about data. Dana is very data driven, very analytical, and I was to an extent, right? But in this new role, it was going to stretch me. It was going to build my analytical acumen. It was going to help me position myself for future roles. And one of my last roles in the organization, with trend analysis, data, all that good stuff. So it was interesting. There were three analysts who were younger, in their 20s, and I remember getting, I'm in the seat and I'm working with them and we're building reporting and they're like walking me through some data that they've leveraged, like thousands of rows of data in Excel. And I'm like, oh dear God, I understand 50% of what you're telling me. So at that point, I'm like, I didn't know, right, in this position, but again, I'm super hard on myself. If anybody knows me, they know that I'm very hard on myself and I just, I want to get it right and whatever. But at one point, that imposter syndrome came up again and said, I don't deserve a seat at this table. I'm like, and again, it came in and it went out as quick as it came in. But yeah, I think the first probably 6 months in that role working with these analysts, which two were in Chicago and one was in Tampa, right here next to me. I was intimidated again, kind of like my tech guys, right? Because they have their own lingo, and you can really, honestly, you can see them like the words as they're like talking to you. You can see them thinking. It was
Right.
just amazing and scary at the same time for me because I was senior, right? So I still had to, you know, help guide. And I'm like, how do I help guide these people when I have no idea what the hell they're talking about? But again, it worked out. Eventually, I would learn to, again, it was uncomfortable. I've been uncomfortable with my skin forever because I challenged myself, right? And all these roles have challenged me to the core. Um, but, anyways, ended up building really good relationships and did some really good things, right? And so at some point, probably about a year in, and I, was now working on the decks, I was sometimes involved in conversations with Dana and the managing director, who will remain nameless. And so, I was now sometimes in the seat with her, right? And she would funnel additional work down to me and the team. About a year in, maybe, she ended up getting a more senior role, and she would move on and leave me. No, it's all good. And so someone else in the would come in and fill her role as the business manager to the managing director, and he was amazing. Different manager, different type, but really cool guy. And gave me visibility in a different way, right? But again, we continued to run the shop, etc. And as if you've listened to any of these podcasts, at about a year and a half in, Amy's thinking about her next move, right? I mean, I have goals, and I really loved what Dina and Todd was my next manager, what they were doing in that business manager role, right? I love the concept. I loved being creative, building beautiful decks and presentations, and knowing that they were going to be used by senior leaders, right? And so that was like really interesting to me, understanding data more now, after being a year plus in and really thriving. But at the same time, I knew that that role wasn't for me. They had hired, Todd, which is totally fine. I supported him 100%. But at the end of the day, I needed a change. And I was actually a co-chair for one of our for a networking group in JP Morgan, and I had met it was called the People's Agenda, the leader who had sponsored a program, and she was amazing. Her name was Vanessa. She was from, I think, London. And we had a great rapport. And, anyways, I had met her throughout that. So I had been the co-chair of the networking committee for like 2 years. I did that when I was trying to get promoted, and I kept it or what have you. So as I'm looking at positions, because I want to make a change, she had a position available. It was in Jersey City, which was a beautiful campus. Again, I'm going to say it's New York, and people are going to hate me for that because it's not, I know, but it's across the water, for God's sakes. And I had always wanted to have a role in New York. And again, that's where they're based, right? One of their hubs. So, what a great opportunity. Well, and the position that I had applied for with her was it was supporting her kind of in the same way that I wanted to support this other guy, but at a different level. And with the visibility of New York. And, it was just a great opportunity. So I remember she had interviewed me, and I think I interviewed like 3 of the top dogs in that particular organization. And I mean, it was intense. It was interview questions I have never been asked, and I don't even remember what the hell they were, but they were like, oh my God, it made you really think. And I loved it. And well, anyways, they were getting ready to offer the position to me. I was in negotiations because it was a relocation, all that good stuff. So then I get called to the managing director that I currently supported. I got called to his office. Todd was leaving and he was going to take another role. And the managing director wanted to give me this opportunity. He knew I wanted it, but yet he knew I had already found my new home, right? And again, at the end of the day, I am grateful that they thought of me. I should have left it at that, to be honest. But so that was a tough decision. It's like, oh man. So that means I don't have to pack, I don't have to move, but yet I'm giving up what I have always wanted. And I may not have known at the time that I always wanted that, but I did. And it was just going to be such a great opportunity. So I took some time to really kind of figure it out. And at the end of the day, the decision I made probably was not the one I should have made, but I did. And I try not to regret. But if there is one thing that I do regret, and maybe I shouldn't say this because what I did experience afterwards would show me how freaking strong I am, mentally, emotionally. But anyways, we'll get into that in next week's episode. But I ended up staying and now reporting to this managing director who, again, it was great for a few months. But when you are supposed to be the right hand of someone and you are supposed to support them 100%, but are not given the ability to do that, that's when things go off track. And I didn't realize Dana had experienced that, Todd had experienced that, many others who have worked with this man experienced that until probably about 4, 5, 6 months in. No, maybe 4 or 5. And one day, and it was the little rocky, right? Because he wasn't giving me the time. He wasn't allowing me to have a seat at the table, to do my job, to help support him. And it would eventually be my fault. Because it is what it is. But I remember I had hired someone to fill my role, so I was now managing and supporting the managing director. And, I had someone help me as well, who was an amazing man. And I remember being in the room with both guys. And the managing director, who had done this many other times, totally gaslighted. There was a presentation we were reviewing. I didn't tell you to do it this way. I wanted it this way. But yet yesterday he told me to do it that way and I had done it the other way. It was just, that was the start of, oh my God, what did I get myself into? And that went on probably about 4 or 5 months. Some days it was hard to get up in the morning. The abuse was something I had never experienced before, and nobody should experience that. And it happens. And it had happened many times with this man, with many different people, and I just wasn't aware of it until it was too late. But I'll tell you, next week, we will talk more in depth about just the abuse. And I don't think I want to focus too much on the abuse itself, but how I got through. And I don't know. I mean, I guess by the grace of God, I got through mentally, but it shook me to the core. And that would be the start of me realizing Bullshit. Nobody treats me like that. And I will not ever allow anybody to treat me with that much disrespect when it wasn't me that they were really mad at. It's just them, right? It's that person. And that eventually would lead me to leaving corporate America. And I will never, ever go back.
Journey. I mean, from rural Montana through corporate America life into JP Morgan, the opportunity to move to New York. I mean, that is just an incredible story, and I'm excited to hear the rest of it next week.
Perfect. We'll talk next week.